It's kind of inevitable that after praising The Walking Dead last week for its renewed character development and writing, that the episode following it would be a complete dud. This week's instalment, Say Yes, swaps Eugene and Dwight for Rick and Michonne, two characters who a couple of years ago would have easily been able to carry an episode. Sadly, due to some now standard The Walking Dead dodgy storytelling, I actually found myself wishing that this week's episode had just stayed at Sanctuary instead. Say Yes mainly focuses on Rick and Michonne searching for guns to give to the weird junkyard people. Things don't begin well, as unfortunately viewers are treated to a pretty dumb opening sequence that sets the tone for the rest of the episode. While searching for supplies, Rick states to Michonne that he needs to find batteries. Okay, that's fine. But what isn't fine is that literally about a minute later, the two of them come across a pickup truck with a box in the back with the word batteries written on it. Ah, what fine luck. Maybe if Rick were to talk about how he needed a tank to fight Negan, one would just so happen to appear out of thin air in front of him. I mean, seriously, this kind of coincidental storytelling is really poor, and feels like something a child would come up with. The writing doesn't improve as the episode progresses, as Rick and Michonne just so happen to stumble on a fairground full of undead who are all carrying guns. Aside from my problems with the narrative, I found the action sequence that took place whilst they were there to be pretty good. It's been a while since we've really seen any of our protagonists get up close with some walkers, and although it wasn't anything new or groundbreaking, the action was fun to watch. It was also nice to see how cocky Rick and Michonne have now become when dealing with the undead. Seeing the pair of them stand and count how many walkers they had left to kill was a pretty nice touch. However, like the rest of the episode, there were also some pretty weird inclusions during this segment. Firstly, the whole thing about Rick owing Michonne a deer was completely unnecessary. I'm sure most viewers had probably forgotten that Michonne had to hand over a deer that she caught to the Saviours earlier this season, because A, it happened so long ago, and B, it wasn't exactly a memorable moment. It seems as though Michonne even forgot herself as she questions Rick when he mentions the deer in the first place. A piece of dialogue that I can only assume was included to jog the viewer's memory. Now I want to mention the actual deer that appears in the episode itself. What the bloody hell is this? You think that The Walking Dead would be able to afford decent CG, but we've now had a shitty green screen behind Rick at the junkyard and an awful deer in the space of a few episodes. It just looks awful and I can't believe it made its way past editing. Honestly, they might as well just had a picture of Bambi on the screen instead. Another strange sequence that happened whilst at the fairground was the pretend death of Rick. Honestly, I have no idea why this was included. Everyone knows Rick isn't going to die. I'm 100% sure that there was no one at home watching the TV that genuinely thought that Rick, the main character of one of the world's most popular shows, had just died after slipping off a Ferris wheel trying to shoot Bambi. It was a completely stupid moment, and what's even worse is that it's been done countless times on the show before. The only saving grace is that at least we didn't have to wait 3 or 4 episodes to find out he was actually hiding the whole time like Glenn. This week's instalment also tries to shove Rick and Michonne's relationship down the viewer's throat. The truth is, it doesn't matter how many times you show me these two characters together, I still just don't feel any chemistry between them. A lot of their dialogue feels really forced and it's a relationship that I just can't invest in at all. Aside from these two, however, we also saw glimpses of Rosita and Tara this episode. Rosita is still wanting to look for more guns and takes it upon herself to find some. I actually thought the scene in which she killed a pretty grotesque walker, only to find that the gun she sought was a toy, was quite a clever little moment. The same can't really be said about the rest of her and Tara's screen time, however. Whilst I did appreciate the conversation that took place between Rosita and Father Gabriel, I actually found myself becoming a bit pissed off with Rosita. At one point she mentioned to Gabriel that Olivia might be still alive if someone did something about Negan. Now hang on, wait a minute love, you tried to kill Negan yourself and you fucked it up. The reason Olivia died is because of you, you idiot. Maybe if you had the ability to aim a gun properly at someone who is standing 2 feet away from you, Olivia wouldn't have been shot. Anyway, as previously mentioned, Tara also showed her face this episode and had a thrilling conversation with Judith. Yeah, the less said about that the better. The conclusion of the episode involved Rick and the gang meeting with Bowl-Cut and handing over the guns. Now, The Walking Dead has made quite a lot of dumb decisions over the years. Just think back to Beth at the hospital or the Wolves, but this group are by far the worst thing the show has done yet. Why everyone at the junkyard talks like a Neanderthal I don't know, but quite frankly it's embarrassing to watch. Before I end this review, I want to play devil's advocate for a moment. The truth is, an episode about finding guns is more than likely not going to be very interesting. However, I feel that if the showrunners skipped the episode and simply had Rick and Michonne show up at the junkyard with a van full of weapons, I would have probably moaned that we didn't know where they got their guns from. On the other hand, Say Yes does show how Rick and Michonne got their guns, but I'm still moaning, so you could argue that either way The Walking Dead can't win. However, the writers are the ones who have wrote themselves into this situation. They didn't have to have Negan come in and take all of Alexandria's guns, but they did. So it's up to them to present an interesting solution to this. However, what we've seen lately, which is basically Rick scavenging for supplies and running back and forth between various groups asking for help, doesn't make for great TV.